Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Arnhem. I'm sometime Fellow of St John's College, Cambridge, former professor and head of the Department of Classics at Witwatersrand University, South Africa, and barrister at law. I'm the author of 23 published books to date, including the U.S. Constitution for Dummies, now in its second edition, and most recently, Why Rome Fell, Decline and Fall, or Drift and Change, published in 2022, a very fresh take on the subject. Now, I want to talk to you about the coronation of King Charles III. This is the first coronation that has taken place in 70 years, the last one having been in 1953. So the country is in what one might call coronation fever. And Britain is the only country in Europe still to have a coronation ceremony. There are a number of other monarchies, but they don't have coronations anymore. One interesting feature of the British coronation is that it's actually 3 coronations in one, or 3 consecrations in one. First, there is the old Germanic tradition of election, the idea that the king is elected. This is done by acclamation in the service, where the Archbishop of Canterbury, officiating, turns to the 4 corners of the congregation, one by one, and at each corner he addresses the people there, saying, "Sirs, I here present unto you King Charles, your undoubted king. Wherefore, all you who are come this day to do your homage and service, are you willing to do the same?" And at each point there is loud acclamation, "God save King Charles." So this represented originally actually election by the aristocracy. But of course, this is just a formality now. The second aspect of it is a Jewish tradition going back to the Old Testament, where the king was anointed with oil. Anointment, not coronation, no crowning, but anointing. And for this purpose, the beautiful, beautiful anthem, Zadok the Priest, is sung, which is a biblical text, somewhat shortened, set to music by the great George Frederick Handel for the coronation of George II in 1727, and it's been used ever since. Although actually that biblical text was used previously as well, right back to the origins of the British coronation, or originally the English coronation, which go back all the way to the year 973. 973, the coronation of the Anglo-Saxon King Edgar by Dunstan, became Saint Dunstan, the then Archbishop of Canterbury. So that's the second element, Zadok the priest. And Zadok the priest is essentially, as I say, it's taken from the Bible. Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anointed King Solomon as king, and everyone shouted, "God save the king, long live the king, may the king live forever." So it is a truly beautiful piece of music, and you can hear it in the background to this video. The third aspect is the actual crowning itself, when the crown is placed on the king's head by the archbishop. Now that is something that seems to be the culmination of the whole service, although it's actually the anointment that is considered the most sacred part, and it's during that part that the king is shielded from view. In fact, it's gone further this time than ever before, because previously the monarch was simply under a canopy, but this time completely shielded from view on three sides by a screen. So I think that's going a bit too far, but it is considered the most sacred part of the service. Then, as I say, comes the actual crowning. The crown that is used is St. Edward's crown. The actual crown now in use dates only from 1661, because the original crown was melted down after the execution of King Charles I, and when the country became a republic. And then it was a new crown was commissioned for the new king, King Charles II, the restored King Charles II, 1661. But that crown is only worn once. It's worn only at the coronation. After that, and immediately after the service, the king walks out not wearing that crown, but a different crown called the imperial state crown, which is somewhat lighter, and that is the crown used for the rest of the reign for state opening of Parliament and any other really formal occasions. So, of course, if you go through all this, the whole ceremony, which is quite lengthy, gives the impression of a very powerful ruler. Of course, that is not actually the case. The king has practically no political clout whatsoever, and it's largely ceremonial. But it is a wonderful occasion, and one which most people will remember probably for the rest of their lives. So, bearing in mind the mystique, the pomp, the ceremony, the circumstance on the one hand, and the reality on the other, it is worth reflecting on the whole thing in context.